Good morning and welcome to this webinar on disaster recovery as a service. First of all, can you please write in the chat box if you can hear me well, please? Great. My name is Johnsen. I'm a pre-sales engineer at Dustin for Advanced Managed Services, and today we're going to take a closer look on our disaster recovery as a service offering. So let's start this off then. Here at Advanced Managed Services, we have multiple services we deliver to our customers, such as backup as a service, disaster recovery as a service, storage as a service, and hyperconverged private cloud as a service. Today, we're going to look a little bit more deeper into disaster recovery as a service. So to start off, let's go through what disaster recovery is. Disaster recovery is to protect your business from unfortunately downtime and incidents that's in your environment. So it's all about how long can you handle to be out serving data in your environment. Some customer might say that we can be down for over a week or more without having any problems running the day-to-day business. Other businesses says that 1 to 2 days is a critical mass. And we go on, and it's all about defining how long can you be without serving data. There have been much research out there that says that most of the businesses out there will not survive more than 5 days of downtime after a disaster before it will be critical for the business itself. But when you're building a disaster recovery for your IT environments, it's a lot of things to think about in the solutions. Yeah. So of course you're going to need to buy yourself some hardware, some servers, some storage, some network, and so on to be able to run your applications on your disaster recovery site. You also need to grow that in your environment because you're growing on your production site. You also need to grow your disaster recovery site. You need to upgrade all the hardware, firmware, etc. And you need to also buy some software to run there. Probably you will be running on a virtualized environment, running VMware or Nutanix or Hyper-V or something like that. You also need to buy that kind of software to be able to run your applications and your VMs on your disaster site. You need to have a good DR plan. The DR plan is the most important regarding a DR, because if you don't have a plan to how to access your data, your investment in all that server, storage, and network and so on is useless. I like to say that moving data and moving the actual data you're going to receive and bring up on the disaster site, that's the easy part. But to have a simple and good way to actually connect to that data, get your users and customers to actually be able to use your data in a DR situation, that's really hard. You of course need to do a design, setup, and installation of the solution. It's complex. You need to replicate your entire site, often with different network configurations on the secondary site, because you need to change public IPs, ways to access into the data center, and so on. You need to monitor and support the solution. You need to maintain it. It's always software updates. You're deploying new applications. You're deploying new VMs. You need to put that into your DR plan and test your DR plan as well. You need to handle a complex network infrastructure. If it wasn't complex enough maintaining your network on the primary site, now you at least have to maintain another site as well with all the switching and routing and access to that data center as well. It's often hard to test your DR when you build it on a traditional way with replicating your data based on storage software or server software. It's no good way to actually bring up the entire environment automatically to actually be able to see what's going on and if your DR is working and you can reach your applications. Often as well, you need to hire some consultancies to fix any kind of problem, help you with configurations. And it's very time consuming. You're going to operate and secondary or third data center that's just standing there standby for you to be able to go up and bring up your application there in case of a DR. And that the entire thing, that data center is going to cost you a lot of money. So what we provide here at Dustin is disaster recovery as a service. So all these pointers I talked about now, we'll deliver that in a turnkey solution from us. Yeah. So with the disaster recovery as a service, you get an enterprise solution from a professional partner. It's multi-cloud support, so you can actually protect your applications running in Azure and Amazon as well. We also support multi-hypervisor. That will say that we can support and cross-replicate both VMware and Hyper-V today, and more hypervisor is coming in the future. We protect your data to a secondary location in our live data center, and it's out of your environment, so we don't need to invest in the expensive hardware and data centers. It's a lockdown configuration that we change on request from the customers, so it's protected against human errors and it's automated. It's also really good to help you recover from stuff like cryptovirus and ransomware, because we are able to deliver historic data as well in the solution. When I look at the traditional ways to do DR, you often have a replication of your backup or a sound replicate thing, and then you often get a long recovery time objective because you don't want to move huge amount of data sets all the time. And if you're recovering from your backup, it's most common to that's the last day's backup you are recovering from, and that's maybe a half day or a day old. But in our solution, we actually have a recovery time objective of minutes because we move data as fast as possible. And all of these pointers will save you a large sum of money because you don't need to invest in data centers, hardware, and so on. So here we see a simple drawing of how our solution looks like. You have your data center or your public cloud. You enable the Dustin disaster recovery as a service, and we're actually selecting just the applications, the virtual applications, the servers you're going to protect in the solution. Of course, you take backup of everything you have in your data center. A good way to do that is with our backup as a service solution. But for the most critical VMs, you run the disaster recovery. In that way, we can protect your data near sync, as close to real time as possible in your environment, of course encrypted to our data centers. So now we're going to do a live demo for you guys and look how we actually are doing it and how the application is working. So in this demonstration, we have a virtual Windows file server running in virtual VMware environment in Oslo. We have enabled disaster recovery as a Stockholm to our Dustin data center in Stockholm, and we're going to simulate a CryptoLocker scenario. So let's jump into VMware. So now we are here in VMware, and we're going to open up our file server and take a look at that. We can see here that we have a file structure here, and we have some files. So if we open up the files, we have a simulated customer database. What we often see at our customer site is that some users at the customer get some mails with either pictures or videos, and they often open up regardless, and whoops, and everything is encrypted on the servers. Here we got a crypto virus. So let's look at the files. Now then, we can see that the entire customer register is encrypted and is useless, and we can't use it at all. Luckily, we are protecting this application or this file server with disaster recovery as a service. So what we are going to do is jump into the solution, and we have a group here protecting that single server. We're going to select that server, and we are going to push the application to see we're going to do a live failover. It's selected, and we go on. Here, we can go back in history. So now we know that we just got attacked. Let's go a couple of minutes back in time. instead of to yesterday's backup to be able to recover from the solution. We select the checkpoints. We see the VM is still running, so we don't just want to take the power out of it. We are going to shut Windows down properly. And we start the failover. So if you now have a look, the VM is already shutting down in VMware. We can of course see that VMware is working in the background, shutting down and taking the VM out. Now it's actually failing over to the Stockholm data center. We can see here that in Stockholm, the VM is imported into the VMware inventory and it's going to boot up. It's going to do two boot ups. It's going to first boot up, check if we told it to change any kind of IP addresses, doing any custom scripts to automate the DR process. And then it's going to boot again and it's ready for you to use. So the first boot up is done, and we're going to just give it a couple seconds, and then we trigger the reboot. It's actually already done rebooting. It's that fast. So if we go into file structure here now, and we can see if we selected the checkpoint that's before we got encrypted. And here we can see all the files is back and running, and the services is up and serving data. And we just maybe lost a couple of minutes of data in the meantime when we was failing over the server from Oslo to Stockholm. If we now go back in the applications, it's also important to be able to move the data back to your data center, of course. And we can commit this job. We're saying, okay, the failover is done, it's working well, we're going to commit it. Here we get the option to reverse the protection. When we do that, as long as your data center is up and running, it's going to sync the data back as well and sync every changes in the environment. So now we have seen how simple and quick we can recover from, for example, a crypto virus. Let me also show you something of the background in the software as well. If you go into a group and see on the definitions of the group, what we can actually do and automate in these solutions. Here we have a protection group protecting a domain controller. You can see here that it's as simple as we can select the VMs we want to protect. If we, for example, here want to protect one or more VMs because our application is combined of more VMs, we can protect them as an entire group, and we are able to fail over it as an entire application or single VMs. For example, if you have a web application running a web front-end server, you're running a SQL server, and you're running a file server, you can protect those three servers together as an entire application and set an automated boot order and so on. We are telling the software where are we going to replicate it to. For you as a customer, this is always going to be Dustin's data center. We select the network we are going to do on the secondary side. So here we select a main failover network, your production network, and you can also see that we are selecting a test failover network, because we are also able in the software to run an isolated test. What the software does when we bring up a VM in test mode is that it brings up a clone of the VM in an isolated environment, so you can run the DR tests beside your production without having any impact in your production site at all. And of course, if your VMs have multiple network adapters, you can select different VLANs on them as well. We can also tell the software to automatically change the IP addresses when you fail over. But all of this stuff is stuff that we at Dustin do in background, because this is a totally managed service. You as a customer get access to the Dustin Sky portal. In here you will see a live overview of your environment of what you are protecting. You will see how many VMs you are protecting, how many terabytes of data you are protecting, your SLA, how long, when was your last restart point. Usually we see at our customer that our customers have around 10 to 15 seconds behind real time on the near sync replication. And our guys, our certified guys, is maintaining the solution. So all that job, maintaining the hardware, the network, and so on, that you are doing in the traditional solution, we are doing in backend with our certified guys. And of course, we deliver a 24/7 support on this solution as well. Your data is critical. When you are in a DR, you should be able to call a professional partner to be able to bring up your solutions as quick as possible. So please, if you have any questions, you can please write them in the chat box now, and I will address them as best as I can. If you want to go more deep down into this solution, want some more information on it, I will be happy to take a private call with you or visit you on site to show you more. Thank you.